Hey everyone, DFA here, welcome back to the channel, and this week I'm taking a look at the Princeton, the only new CV from the American torpedo bombers line that I have not covered yet. And I was not planning to cover it initially, but when I started playing that thing, yeah, I realized that some of you might be needed some guidance on it because it's really not great. But first we start with a real pro move as an intro. It's not going great and I'm going to send my final and last torpedo bomber against that KGV. To save the day, can this lonely torpedo bombers can actually help us shooting that lone torpedo from far away, and there you go, that's the real pro move for here there. 2 hits and the flood, there you go. Good job, Wargaming. Can you please release one line without bugs for one's sake? And if you haven't noticed yet, I've already used all my tactical bombers, but if you switch back, you can actually see that it looks like I haven't used a single one of them. So there you go, GG, WG, and let's take a look at that thing in action, because it's really not great, and maybe this guide will help you a little bit get through the grind. And here we have it next to the Independence and the other tier 6 CVs. Immediately we notice that it's actually pretty similar to the Independence. Similar survivability, a bit more HP, a bit better concealment, but worse maneuverability. The guns are equally bad, you only get 2 of them, so yeah, it's not going to end up well for you any close range encounter. Secondaries you get none, and yeah, that's where that thing starts to fall apart. It doesn't get any dive bombers, okay, so be it. And it does get a little bit more torpedo bombers than the Independence. 15 versus 12, but that's really not a lot. 2 squadrons of 3 with somehow a bigger preparation time. So yeah, not great, and unfortunately a lower HP per bomber. So yeah, you only get 21,000 for your torpedo bomber HP pool. That's really low, because that's also your only HP pool in terms of planes. So yeah, the damage is also lower for whatever reason, and the flooding chance is also lower for whatever reason. So yeah, it's a bit strange, to be honest. The Princeton does get, however, 2 tactical bomber squadron. First, the tactical dive bombers, you're only getting 2 squadrons of 3. They don't deal a lot of damage, and the fire chance is actually pretty poor, so yeah, don't rely on them too much. And the same goes for the tactical torpedo bombers. Sorry, the capacity is not 9, it's 6. You're getting 2 squadrons, and the prep time is also pretty low. The damage is pretty low as well. So yeah, they're not real tactical bombers, a bit like the higher tiers where they go a little bit faster, etc. There it's really marginal, and they don't have that smoke capability that the Yorktown and the Wasp get. So practically you end up with a super low DPM and a very low HP pool for your bombers. So you have to preserve them as much as you can. That's going to be the end game there. Luckily the fighters are a little bit better. They have more HP than the Independence, also an extra plane, so that's really good. Preparation time is of course not great for that reason, but in terms of total HP and damage output, they are second best at the tier behind the retarded Bearn. And yeah, that's where the good news, and the AA is also pretty mid, so yeah, let's take a look at the gameplay. And so yeah, as I was saying, it's pretty bad on paper, and it's also pretty bad in real life, but luckily we do get a very good matchmaking this time for the Princeton, because there's only 1 battleship with decent AA on the enemy team, and for the rest it's all destroyers and cruisers, and yeah. It's a Weser in front, so we kinda have to watch out for our planes, because this one has decent fighters, they're also pretty quick. But yeah, what you really want to do with the Princetons is to pick your fight. So you really have to focus destroyers with that thing, because look, if you start going after battleships, you will be deplaned after 3 strikes. Honestly, those very squishy torpedo bombers, if you make one mistake with them, you lose them. If you send them against 1 concentration, you lose them. And yeah, if you know how tactical bombers work, typically you only get a finite amount of strikes per game, so yeah, it's really not great. And so that's why you see me going after targets that really have no AA and cannot defend themselves properly, and from that perspective it's actually pretty decent. I just need to constantly remind myself, because I do play a lot of high tier CV, obviously, that I need to aim a lot more. I would anticipate a lot more to be putting torpedoes on target, but you can really deal a lot of damage to destroyers with that thing if you know what you're doing and if the enemy destroyers are making it easier for you, just like that Farragut. But other than that, you see that I'm saving my tactical bombers, because essentially you want them to do two things essentially. So you want them to start fires and floods on enemy ships, that's number one. But you also want them to soak as much AA damage as they can for your torpedo bombers. That's what you see me do there. So I'm launching my tactical squadron. I do not get a single fire on that Renown, which is not unusual because the tactical dive bombers are really poor, but you also see me making sure that my tactical torpedo bombers gets on the Renown first and that he actually gets hit by the AA. Because that's pretty much the only way you have of preserving your torpedo bombers. And there you see me doing the wrong thing again. You have to aim a little bit ahead of your target. You have to lead your targets with those torpedo bombers, because yeah, it's tier 6, they're much slower than tier 8 and tier 10, so I constantly have to remind myself, because yes, I'm currently grinding that thing, so yeah, I constantly have to remind myself of that. Now the enemy CV finally decides to wake up, and that's a good thing, so we can actually test our fighters, and it turns out they're actually pretty good on paper, and they're also pretty good in real life, but yeah. Honestly, the focus when playing the Princeton is really on dealing damage and picking your targets, because really that's where you can make a difference. So really focus destroyers first at all times and only attack, I would say, larger ships once you get the tactical bombers up and running, because yeah, those things can actually be quite deadly to destroyers, and this game is a pretty good showcase of that. But for the rest, as you see, it's not going very well. We're certainly going to lose the left flank and the right flank. Well, it doesn't look like my two battleships there are going to push anywhere. So yeah, let me see if I can actually put some fire and floods into that Renown and flood him for good. Maybe I'll get lucky this time. But yeah, it's the best use I could come up with for your tactical bombers. It's really to try to initiate fire and floods and get some, yeah, you see, not a single fire again, and try to get them to soak up AA damage, because yeah, you're losing them anyway, so it doesn't really matter, they're not going to be taken down. So yeah, this time I'm sending them right on top of the enemy ship, and I should have aimed this one a little bit better, but hopefully the next waves will actually connect. And can we this time get another flood? No, we can't, so yeah. It's not good at setting fires, as you've seen. It's not excellent at setting floods. Maybe it's better at running away. Because in a lot of the battles, that will often be your only option. Especially when you are in I would say, battleships heavy matchmaking, or when you are playing against tier 7, which will happen a lot. Yeah, you will get deplaned very easily, and you see me doing everything I possibly can to preserve my torpedo bombers. But yeah, there I'm in a tricky situation, so I have to send them one by one. I cannot wait any longer, so that's obviously how you get deplaned. So yeah, for the rest you really have to be patient and time your strikes. This time I lead a little bit better, and hopefully we do get the 3 hits, 1, 2, and a few seconds later the third one, and we finally remove that cruiser from the game. Unfortunately, it's a 1 against 4 with 300 points behind and only 3 bases. 0 now, sorry. So yeah, it's not going to end up well, and let us debrief that thing while we are busy running for our life. So Princeton, is it fun? Not really for me. It's really underpowered, it's not amazing. Tier 6, it's supposed to be a learning tier for CVs. That's where you start having the first combinations of fighters and yeah, essentially planes. So a complete package for most of the CVs, but yeah, yeah. Honestly, I didn't expect it to be so bad when I started playing it. Is it beginner friendly? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You get deplaned incredibly quickly, and I hope I was able to show you a couple of tips and tricks into that video on how to avoid that, but for the rest, yeah, I would say it's learning how to deal with destroyers the hard way, because that's probably the only target you can face. And yeah, even though for that it's not such a great learning platform, to be completely honest. I don't like the concept of tactical bombers, and if they cannot even set off smoke, then you kind of lose a lot of the utility there. But then again, given how weak this ship is, you would be really silly if you're using your tactical bombers for anything else than dealing damage. And so yeah, overall, yeah, it's still free to play friendly. Yeah, you don't need a high level commander with that thing, honestly. You don't need any camo or anything. All you need is free XP. That would be my advice. Save some free XP for that thing, because you have 200,000 experience to grind to the Yorktown, and honestly, as soon as I get halfway through there, I will simply skip it and get to the Yorktown immediately. So there you go, that was my review of the Princeton. Hope you've enjoyed it. Learned a couple of interesting things. Stay safe, take care. That was DFA signing out. Bye bye.